Ah, in the continuing quest to provide meaningful advice, not just satire and sarcasm, I'm trying to answer the question of, should you buy a fuel-efficient car to save on gas? Now, this is not a question I made up. This is a question I get frequently, especially now that gas is approaching $5 a gallon for a premium, or about $35 a gallon in California. But the question is basically similar to, should you drive across town to get cheaper gas? If you're checking on your gas app and you can save 5 cents by going to this gas station, it is a cost-benefit analysis. And the answer pretty much always to should you drive across town to get cheaper gas is no. And we can usually see through that because we're wasting gas to go try and save a little bit. But if we actually add up how much we spent to get to the gas station, it's not going to offset how much we saved at that gas station. But somehow people are unable to make the larger cost-benefit analyses when they're talking about buying a car, because they're driving a wildly inefficient car or a big truck or something like that, and they look at how much they're spending on gas and it's impacting their monthly budget in a very real way. And that is certainly a squeeze that we can all identify with. It's a tough thing when your budget is already tight and you're looking at an extra $100 or $200 a month in gas. It may make or break some budgets, so that's a difficult decision. But let's unpack this. So a common mistake is to calculate the savings based on your monthly budget, e.g. your car payment. But that is not a real cost analysis. So if you say, well, my car payment is $400 a month, I'm spending $200 a month on gas, but if I trade in this car, well, it might cost me $450 a month, but I'm going to save $75 on gas. So my monthly cash flow, my monthly budget is still less. That is not a good calculation because you're not factoring in the real cost of the car. You're burying it in the finance payments. Car salesmen love when people come in and their only concern is what their monthly payment is. That is a car salesman's dream because they can bury all sorts of costs into that payment. They can stretch out the loan another year, another 2 years. They can do whatever financial wizardry they want to do because the only thing the person's concerned about is their monthly payment. And that is not how you should shop for a car, and that is not how you should make your decisions. It's the same thing that you should not make a financial decision on a rental property based on the cash flow, because positive cash flow is no indication of whether or not you're profitable, because there are larger expenses that get amortized out over time that you're not paying for in your actual mortgage. This is the same thing with cars. So you have depreciation that you're not factoring in. The biggest one is sales tax. When you buy a new car or a used car, when you upgrade in car, you are paying sales tax on the purchase. Some states actually offer you sales tax credit, so that is a lesser consideration. But for instance, in Ohio, if you buy a different used car, whether or not you trade in, you're paying the full sales tax amount. So if you say, well, I've got a $15,000 truck that gets terrible gas mileage, I'm going to buy a $20,000 Prius, I'm going to save money on gas. If you buy a $20,000 car, you're paying about $1,500 in sales tax. The average amount a person spends on gas in a year is about $1,500. So if gas price goes from $2 a gallon to $4 a gallon, so it doubles, it's going to take you a year just to absorb the sales tax. And gas has not doubled in the last 6 months. Most of the time that gas goes up like this, it's not in a significant enough amount to even offset the sales tax. So it's going to take you a year, 2 or 3 years before you even break even on the sales tax from buying the car. Not to mention the depreciation. The average new car depreciates about 10 to 20% the moment you drive it off the lot. Now, this video is being made in 2022, and in the last year and a half, obviously, you can throw that out the window. But we are in unprecedented times of inflation, of restricted supply of new cars, where cars just aren't depreciating. But that is not the norm. That is not the rule. Cars depreciate the moment you drive them off the lot. And in the first 3 years, new cars depreciate about 50% of their value on average. So you have to factor that depreciation in against your gas savings. So if you buy a $40,000 brand new car to save on gas and trade in your $60,000 King Ranch Lariat Super Duty Eddie Bauer truck, you are losing, what did I say, $40,000 car? You're losing $20,000 in 3 years. You can't drive enough to spend that kind of money on gas, let alone save that money on gas. So you need to not calculate your savings based on your monthly cash flow. You need to look at real dollars and cents. What are the transactional costs, both now and the ones amortized out over months and years of doing this deal? The other more subtle difference is the market. If you're looking to buy a fuel-efficient car in times of desperation because gas prices are up, that means that everybody else is too, which means that fuel-heavy vehicles have gone down in value and fuel-efficient cars have gone up in value. So there's already a price correction factored into the values of these cars where you're actually losing money immediately on the transaction that you haven't realized. So for instance, if your truck was worth $50,000 when gas was $2.50 a gallon, it's probably worth $45 now that gas is $4 a gallon because everybody else is trying to do the same thing. So you've already lost that $5,000 by trying to get out of your truck when everybody else is. And you're going to pay more for the fuel-efficient car because everybody else is trying to buy a fuel-efficient car. Right now, there's an article I just read today that supplies of hybrids and fuel-efficient vehicles are at an all-time low because everybody's trying to save money on gas, but they're not doing the math. It's ending up costing them more. And if you can afford in your monthly budget to keep paying the high gas prices, your non-fuel efficient vehicle will probably go back up in value or at least normalize with non-fuel efficient cars because people have short-term memory. And as soon as gas is cheap or affordable again, nobody will care about hybrids. Nobody will care so much about the fuel efficient cars. They'll all be out buying trucks again. So if you can afford to squeeze your budget to pay for that gas, the best thing to do is not to do anything because the costs that you incur to do a transaction to try to save money are way beyond what you're actually going to save, and it's going to take you years to make up the difference based on the little bit of savings in gas. And who knows how long gas is going to be that high. So quick answer, don't buy a fuel-efficient car just to save on gas if you already have a vehicle. Now, if you're out shopping for one, you don't have a car, then of course fuel efficiency is a great factor to consider, but it is not the only one.